Happy Tuesday, everyone. Happy Tuesday, everyone. It is championship week. And for the 7th out of the 8th time, my Georgia Bulldogs will be playing in the SEC championship game. How about that? That is remarkable. The Georgia Bulldogs will be making this 7th out of the last 8 years. They'll be making their 7th appearance in the SEC championship game. We're gonna talk about that, but first on this show, I'm gonna address the playoff dilemma that is brewing for that 11th spot. It looks like it's going to be the 11th spot because, as we all know, the 12th spot is going to go to either Boise State or the winner of Arizona State and Iowa State. So, everyone, get your popcorns ready. Get your popcorn ready. I'm Armondo Black, and this is the DAWG Call. Good evening. Welcome to the DAWG Call. I'm your host, Armondo Black, here to discuss the bracketology that's going on and the chaos that is brewing with this playoff committee. I want to start with our Georgia Bulldogs, my Georgia Bulldogs. I'll be nice. I'll say our Georgia Bulldogs. What a comeback. What a comeback on Black Friday against Georgia Tech. And I tell you, that game was very important. That game right there, a lot of people believe that punched our ticket to the college football playoffs. But honestly, I just want to ask every Georgia Bulldog fan, and I don't mean to come on here and be a Debbie Downer. I don't mean to come on here and be negative. I'm just coming on here being real, and I'm going to say out loud what I say at least 80% of Bulldog fans are actually feeling right now. Do we want to trust this playoff committee? Honestly, ask yourself, do you want to trust this playoff committee? Let's just look at the history of this playoff committee and how they've screwed teams over. Okay, let's start off with our Georgia Bulldogs, how they screwed over Georgia. Let's look at 2018. Now, when they first started this playoff thing, the criteria was the 4 best teams. Okay, so every analyst on Selection Sunday in 2018, every analyst was asked, if you put Georgia and Oklahoma on the field at a neutral site, it could be home and home, neutral site, it don't matter. Who you going to take? Every analyst would say Georgia. But at the same breath, they would say, well, Oklahoma's more deserving. They won the Big 12. They won their conference, and Georgia didn't. It doesn't matter that Oklahoma played in a weaker conference at the time in 2018. Texas was slowly coming along. It was slowly coming along. I think they had Tom Herman was their head coach at the time. They were slowly coming along, but they aren't the Texas of today. Oklahoma really didn't have any competition in the Big 12 during that time, where Georgia had to go through gauntlets. Georgia had to go through a gauntlet of a schedule. They had to play Tennessee, South Carolina. They had to play Kentucky. Kentucky was a good team at that time. They had to play Florida, a very good Florida team that was ranked in the top 10, and then had to play the Crimson Tide in the SEC championship game, where Oklahoma had the luxury of playing someone. I think it was who was it? I think it was Texas that they played in the Big 12 championship. But like I said, Texas was nowhere near on the level that they're on today. That committee, their excuse for leaving Georgia out that year was Oklahoma was more deserving. But when the playoff first began, it was supposed to be about the 4 best teams, but it went from the 4 best teams to the 4 more deserving teams. Now let's look at last year. We were on a 3-year undefeated regular season streak where we had not lost not one regular season game. We were 2-time defending national champions. And that committee left us out. We lost to Bama by a field goal in the SEC championship game, and that committee left us out. And we weren't the only ones that were affected by it. Let's go back to, let's say 2016, where Penn State beat Ohio State, went on to win the Big Ten championship game, and that committee left Penn State out of the playoffs and put Ohio State in instead. And that same Ohio State team, what did they do when they got in the playoffs? They went down to Arizona and got the brakes beat off of them by Clemson. By what? 4 touchdowns. My fellow Dog fans, we really want to trust this committee? Do you really? Because it seems like a lot of you are getting relaxed, comfortable. You're listening to these same dogcasters that were so sure that we were going to get in last year, regardless of what happened. And what happened the next morning, that Sunday at Selection Day, we were left out. Not only were we left out, they put us at number 6. You have to control what you control. And if I'm Kirby and Mike Bobo and Glenn Schumann, I'm going in with the same mindset that I went into that Tech game. I'm going into this game with Texas with the mindset that this is a must-win game. And it really is. It's a must-win game. Now, 9 times out of 10, they probably would still put Georgia in. But let me tell you how this committee will screw over Georgia. They will put Georgia in the toughest situation just to make sure that they don't come out and win the national title. If Georgia loses to Texas, here's what this committee could do. If Georgia loses to Texas, it could be us that's in the 11th spot. And they could put Bama at number 10, rank them at 10, have them facing off, let's say, against Notre Dame. or Penn State and try to pair Georgia up with Ohio State. Now, I don't know how you all feel about that, but that's not a good situation for Georgia to be in. To go on the road in the playoffs. Now, the 2 games that we've lost this year, where do we lose them at? On the road. Now, the Bama game, it was a warm, pretty, beautiful night. No rain in the forecast, no nothing. And we played like crap. Receivers couldn't act like they couldn't catch the damn ball in the first half. Defensive players were missing tackles. But we made a valiant comeback and almost won the game. Let's go to the Ole Miss game. Early November. A cool, rainy day. Couldn't have been no more than the 50s, but it was raining. The receivers were dropping the ball. We were fumbling the ball. The O-line couldn't block worth a damn. We didn't have a good game at all that day in Oxford. So think and ask yourself this question. If these receivers have a hard time catching the ball in warm climate, like 80-degree sunshine weather in Sanford Stadium, or 70-degree weather in Tuscaloosa at night, what the hell makes you think that they're going to be able to catch the ball in very cold, inclement weather? Like what we're going to see in South Bend or Happy Valley or Columbus, Ohio. Those are some very cold places in late December. And don't sleep on Knoxville. Knoxville in late December, and I have family, I have in-laws up there in Tennessee. They get some snow. They get weather that we don't see here in Georgia. Up in those mountains. It gets cold in the state of Tennessee in late December. Do you really think that these receivers that has issues catching the damn ball in warm climate in the South would be able to go up north and function in a first round playoff game? I wouldn't want to test that theory. If I'm Kirby, if I'm Mike Bobo, if I'm Schumann, if I'm those players in that locker room, I would not want to test those theory. I would rather play in the comfort of the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, with a first round bye. I would much rather do that. So I say that to say this, Dogs fans, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it to you plain and simple. Because see, one thing about over here, I'm not a Disney dog. I'm not going to sell you any pipe dreams. I'm not going to come on here like I'm seeing these other dog casters doing. They're coming on here lying to you. Well, Georgia could lose the SEC championship game Saturday, still go to the playoffs, and still get a first round home game. That's a lie. That ain't not going to happen. With 3 losses, no way. There's no way in hell that this committee, think about it now, this committee would not even put any respect on us after going into Austin and dog walking this same Texas team. This committee has not given us credit for that. They gave us a little ounce of credit for beating Tennessee. They moved us up, 1 spot the following Tuesday? Do you really want to trust this committee? Do you really want to put your playoff fate in the hands of this committee? Because they're going to give Georgia a bad draw, a terrible draw. Mark my words. They will drop Georgia from wherever they rank, wherever they're going to be ranked tonight. My guess is they'll probably have Georgia ranked either 5 or 6. 9 times out of 10, it'll probably be 6. Ohio State was ranked number 2 last week. Mark my words, Ohio State will still be hosting the game. They're not dropping below 8. I promise you that. They will not drop below 8. Ohio State is going to be somewhere between 8, I say 8 and 6. 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that range. The only teams that this committee will be justified for moving around come Sunday would be the ones that are participating in the conference championship games. So you would have to move Texas or Georgia. If Georgia beats Texas, you would have to move Texas. My guess is Texas would probably, I don't see either one of them getting a home game. I don't see the loser of this game getting a home playoff game. I see the loser of this SEC championship game will have to go on the road in the first round. That's my guess. The loser will have to go on the road. The loser will not get a home game. And if you think that the loser is going to get a home game, you are gullible as hell. You are gullible. And you're not paying attention to what this committee has been doing for the past month. Georgia needs to win this game. It's imperative. It is imperative. Now, if we'd had Brock Bowers, Lad McConkey, Rosemary St. Jack, or A.D. Mitchell, Kendall Milton, and Dajon Edwards, then I was like, hell yeah, we can go in the Happy Valley. We can go anywhere and win a game. Because I would trust Bowers and McConkey and Rosemary St. Jack in any kind of weather. Kendall Milton, Dajon Edwards in any kind of weather. Rain, sleet, or snow. But these guys, they're not built for that kind of weather, in my opinion. They need to be inside of a warm dome. And the thing that they need the most, let's address the elephant in the room. The thing that this Georgia team needs the most is rest. Plenty of rest. Time to heal. Because I do believe when this team is at full strength, they are the most dangerous team in the nation. They will be the hardest team to beat in the nation at full strength. If they can get healthy, a well-rested, healthy Georgia Bulldogs team, this team could whoop any team in the top 12, in my opinion. But in order to get that bye, they got to do something that they've already done. They got to beat a team that they've already beaten. Now I'm hearing all these so-called experts. Oh, it's hard to beat a team twice in one season. It's hard to beat a team twice in one season. How many times have we seen that done in all other sports? We see it all the time in baseball. Hell, we've seen baseball teams whoop another baseball team's ass 3 days in a row. Sweep a series. Basketball, same thing. How many times have we seen the Hawks beat the Wizards 1 week, 2 weeks later, turn around and go to Washington and beat that same Wizards team? Same thing for hockey. They play back-to-back nights in the playoffs. Now they say, well, it's hard to do it in football. It's hard to do it in football. Let's take a look at the SEC. Because you see, I don't know about the Big 10 or the Big 12 or the ACC, but I will. I do my research on the SEC. Let's take a look at the last 7 rematches. The last 7 rematches in the SEC. The last 7 times that 2 teams have played each other in the same season, the last 7 times. The team that won the first meeting out of those 7 times won the second meeting, the 5th, for 5 times. Let me say it again. The team that won those 7 meetings also won the rematch 5 times. Only twice has the other team beaten the other team in the rematch. That's in the SEC. So I say that to say this. The better team is just going to be the better team, especially in the same season. Now I can understand if it's a different year, okay? But in the same year, ain't nothing changed but the date on the calendar. One date says October and the other date will say December. But that ass whipping is going to be the same. Because what has changed? Texas has the same players, the same head coach, the same staff, the same everything. The only thing that will change is the venue. It won't be in Darrell K. Royal Stadium this time. It will be in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which technically will be a de facto home game for the Georgia Bulldogs. So this should be advantage Georgia. Now I'm hearing people saying, well, Arch Manning this, Arch Manning that. Arch Manning was put in the first half of the game, the first game. And what happened? He came in for 2 series. Sarkisian benched Ewers in the first half, and he brought Arch in. What happened? Hello? What happened? What changed? Not a damn thing. Nothing. Then I'm hearing some people say, well, look how Texas dominated Texas A&M. They dragged Texas A&M up. The same Texas A&M that South Carolina hung 44 points on. Ask yourself this question. If Texas A&M and Florida played in a rematch this Saturday, who would you put your money on? If Texas A&M, this Texas A&M that we saw last Saturday in Kyle Field, if you put them up against the Florida Gators right now in a rematch, who would win? Who would your money be on? I got one better for you. If you put this Texas A&M team on the field in a rematch against South Carolina, who would your money be on? I know mine would be on South Carolina. You know why? Because ain't a damn thing changed but the date on the calendar. South Carolina is still South Carolina. Texas A&M is still Texas A&M. So I don't understand why all of these clowns are insinuating that this Texas team is just going to automatically, out of the blue, turn into the big boogeyman and beat my Georgia Bulldogs. Based on what theory? Hmm? Based on what theory? Now, I can understand if Georgia had to go down to Dallas and play this game. I can understand if Georgia had to go back to Darrell K. Royal Stadium and play this game. Then you may have a little argument, but they got to come here. And the last time I checked, both Georgia and Texas are both in the same situation. Neither team needs to lose this game because the loser is definitely going to have to go on the road and play in some cold ass late December inclement weather. The loser will not be hosting a home game. Pay attention to the polls tonight. Pay attention to the polls tonight. This committee is going to do everything in their power to make sure that Ohio State has a home playoff game. And deservedly so, in my opinion. They have probably the best loss in the nation. They lost to Michigan, but Michigan is bowl eligible. Remember, Michigan is the defending national champions, and Michigan got hit with injuries this year. It's not like they lost to Central Michigan or to Northern Illinois, like another team that they're trying to pump up and hype up. It ain't like Ohio State lost at home to Northern Illinois. So I say that to say Ohio State will definitely get a home playoff game. You can best believe that. So it is imperative that Georgia wins this game Saturday night. It is imperative. It is very important because I don't trust this playoff committee. And no one should blame me for not trusting this playoff committee. Why the hell would any Georgia Bulldog fan trust this playoff committee? I'll wait. Why? Because they did the right thing in 2021 by putting us in. Even though we lost to Bama, there was no one else. There was no one else that year. Ohio State had 2 losses. Michigan State had fell off. Oregon had lost, 2 or 3 games toward the end. You wasn't going to put Utah in there. They had 3 losses. There was no one else to put in that 4th spot but us. They had no damn choice. No choice. They weren't going to put a 2-loss Ohio State in over us. They got boat raced at home by Oregon in 2021. They weren't going to do that. Do you know how bad that committee, how discreditable that committee would have looked? So they had no choice but to do the right thing in 2021. Now, I do believe that may have had a part to do with our lackluster performance in Atlanta because we came in undefeated. We came in 12-0. This is not the case, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming into that game 10-2. Let me say it again. We're coming into that game 10-2. We don't have the luxury of coming in there 12-0. No. Oregon has that luxury. but we don't this year. We are 10-2. We lose that game Saturday. One or two things is going to happen. Either A, that committee is going to leave us all the way out, or B, we will be in the playoffs, but we're going to be going on the road, playing in some freezing late December cold weather. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I've been a Dogs fan all my life. I rock the red and black and white all my life. But one thing I'm not going to do is lie to my fellow Georgia Bulldog fans and lie to my Dogs viewers and listeners and subscribers. I'm not going to come on here and sell you no pipe dream, no scripted pipe dream that's put in front of me to say to you just to keep you calm. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen before it happens. Georgia needs to win this game. It is imperative. Now, I don't think we're in the same situation that SMU is in, and I'm getting ready to go into that. But we need to take care of business Saturday. We need to have that same mindset that we had when we lined up against Tennessee and when we lined up against Georgia Tech last Friday night. We need to go in there and handle our business. We've beaten this team before. If anything, there's no damn excuse why we can't beat this team again. Think about it. The offense sucked in the first game. Let me say it again. The offense sucked. We were dropping balls, missing blocks. Carson Beck had one of the worst games of his career in that first game. And that's another factor that a lot of you haven't even thought about. All of these experts that's predicting that Texas is going to win the rematch. What makes you think that Carson Beck doesn't have a chip on his shoulder about that first game? What makes you think that he is not going to come into that game with something to prove? We dragged that team for 60 minutes. And Carson Beck threw 3 interceptions. We dragged Texas, and our receivers were not having a good night. They were dropping balls most of the night. And we still dominated that game. Now, I've been watching Texas. Now, you want to talk about that Florida game? Let's talk about it. DJ Lagway did not play one snap. Not one snap in that game. He didn't play not one snap. I don't even think he dressed out. Florida played their backup quarterback. And not only was Lagway missing, a couple of D linemen were missing. That was not the same Florida team that was on the field against Ole Miss. They didn't get that Florida team. So where has Texas become this big bad boogeyman all of a sudden? The Vanderbilt game? Oh, they struggled. They struggled against Vanderbilt. So where did it have today all of a sudden become this big bad boogeyman? The big bad wolf of the SEC against Arkansas? Where Arkansas's actually attrition came back to haunt them, and they just got worn down by a deeper Texas team and lost pretty close, 20-10. So how is this team the big bad boogeyman all of a sudden? Because they went in the cow field on a Saturday night and beat them 17-7. A shorthanded Aggies team without Moss, Le'Veon Moss, and a couple of defensive players. You know, I watch a Texas podcast with these two ladies, Fire the Cannon. They do a great job. Diehard Texas fans. And listening to them last night kind of reminded me of Rocky 2, the Rocky 2 movie. When Apollo was telling his his squad when they were in the meeting, and he was talking about Rocky, and he was saying, "Yeah, I won, but I didn't beat him." That's how those two ladies were sounding. They were like, "We won, but we didn't beat the Aggies. We won, but we didn't beat them." They left some points on the field. Just like a lot of teams that are in that 12-team playoffs are flawed. There is no big boogeyman in the mix this year, and I'm including Oregon in this. Because one lucky win over Ohio State don't make you a big boogeyman. If that's the case, honestly, I'm more impressed with how Michigan beat Ohio State when they went in the horseshoe and beat an Ohio State team that had just came off a big win against Indiana. So it wasn't like Michigan snuck up on Ohio State. They went in and they bust Ohio State in the mouth for 60 minutes. I'm more impressed with Michigan's win over Ohio State than I am over Oregon's. Because I honestly do believe if Ohio State could have gotten Oregon in a rematch, Ohio State would have won that game. I've said it. I said it in the kickoff show a couple of times. Past couple of weeks. We'll never know now. We'll never know. Penn State will be playing Oregon. And don't sleep on the fact that that could be an upset. Besides Ohio State, what other elite team has Oregon seen this year? The only team closest to Ohio State that Oregon has seen this year is Illinois. And I don't want to hear a damn thing about Boise State because Boise State has escaped a couple of times this year. Boise State it kind of reminds me of Miami. They won some games that they could have very well easily lost. Oregon is not all of that. They're not the big bad wolf that the media and ESPN and everybody else is trying to make them out to be. Neither was Ohio State. Neither is Penn State. Definitely neither is Notre Dame. Neither is Texas. There's not a team in this field that my Georgia Bulldogs could not beat. They bring their A game. They could whoop any team's ass in this 12 in this 12 team playoff. My dogs win this game Saturday and get a number 2 seed and a bye to come along with that. Look out. Look out, because there's no other coach in college football better at getting his team prepared on a 3-week, 4-week rest. No other coach is better at getting their team prepared than Kirby Smart. Look at his playoff record. Ask Lincoln Riley. Ask Jim Harbaugh. Ask Sonny Dykes. Hell, ask Nick Saban. But I say that to say this: we got to take care of business. We got to finish what we started last year. Who wants to lose the SEC championship game 2 years in a row? That ain't a good look. So there are so many reasons why Georgia needs to win this game and why this game means more to us than it does to Texas. And I'm being dead ass serious. Now, yeah, Texas is going to win the SEC crown eventually, but this cannot be the year. Year one? To come in here in year one and put their stamp on the SEC and be crowned the kings of the SEC in year one? Oh, hell no. Not on our watch, not on the Georgia Bulldogs' watch, and definitely not on Kirby Smart's watch. So, all you experts picking Texas, go ahead. It's going to be like flushing money down the toilet. Now, on to this playoff scenario. We have, and this is what we're looking at here, okay? Clemson lost to South Carolina last Saturday. So, therefore, their at-large privileges have been revoked. Their only avenue of getting to the playoffs is winning the ACC championship. Clemson lost to South Carolina. South Carolina, so we're looking at the at-large teams. Miami choked against Syracuse, and it was a good Syracuse team that will be ranked tonight. So everyone that's just saying, oh, they choked against a bit, it ain't like they lost to Florida Atlantic. It ain't like they lost to damn Old Dominion or someone like that. They lost to a good Syracuse team in the Carrier Dome. And I said it that Saturday morning that game was going to be the toughest game for Miami the entire season. That was going to be their toughest game. And now, the thing that makes Miami look bad is that they blew a 21-point lead. And I think that committee is going to make them pay tonight. So pay attention. If Miami falls outside of 13, then I think they're done. I think that's it. They have no chance in hell of getting into the playoffs as an at-large team. They're not playing a conference championship game. If Miami is positioned under Ole Miss, Bama, and South Carolina, they're done. Canes fans, you may as well go ahead and just start making plans for whatever bowl game you're going to go to, the Citrus Bowl, Outback Bowl. Hell, you may even be in the Las Vegas Bowl, taking on Travis Hunter and the Colorado Buffaloes. That would be a good one. Travis Hunter versus Cam Ward. Now, South Carolina. If anyone asks me, what team out of the three teams, which of the three teams worry you the most? Which of the three teams that you would not want to see? Which of the three teams that you would be the most nervous about? And I'll tell you without any hesitation, it would be South Carolina. That South Carolina team, Lenore Sellers, I'm telling you, Dogs fans, if you thought Haynes King was a problem, this kid, Lenore Sellers, is a bigger problem. I think he's a bigger problem than Jalen Miro. Because see, the thing about Jalen Miro could beat you with his legs. He ain't gonna beat you with his arm. Lenore Sellers, he can beat you with both. He can beat you with his legs. He can beat you with his arm. And he has great breakaway speed. And he's slippery. He'll run over you, through you, and around you. Where Jalen Miro will just run around you and away from you. That's what makes Lenore Sellers more dangerous. South Carolina has a hell of a better defense, in my opinion, than both Ole Miss and Bama. And that secondary has improved. It is hard to throw on this team. And they have some dangerous wide receivers that can go up and get the ball. Rocket Sanders is a load. This South Carolina team, and you talk about going into the cold weather and maybe having to play a playoff game. There's two things that always travels with a team that has to go on the road and play a very important game or even a playoff game in late December. You know what that is? A running game and a damn good defense will always travel. And South Carolina has both. So I say that to say that South Carolina, out of the four, between South Carolina, Miami, Ole Miss, and Bama, South Carolina is the most dangerous team. They're the most dangerous team that you will have to see as an 11th seed. Very dangerous. Ole Miss is a dangerous team as well, but Ole Miss they're like a yo-yo. They're up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. I think they put so much energy into building that team to beat my Georgia Bulldogs that they just forgot about the rest of the season. They forgot about Florida. But I do believe if you want to talk about deserving, I think Ole Miss, out of all four, Ole Miss is the more deserving team. Let's take a look at the tale of tale. Ole Miss went into Columbia, William Bryce Stadium, and dragged South Carolina for 60 minutes on their up and down William Bryce Stadium. 27-3. It wasn't even close. That same South Carolina team, with the banged up Lenore Sellers, came this close to upsetting Bama in Tuscaloosa. An ill-advised throw by Sellers is the only thing that saved Bama that day. The only thing that saved them. So Ole Miss won a decisive game over South Carolina. Bama got lucky and won the game against South Carolina. Let's look at Georgia. Yeah, Bama had a 28-0 lead at halftime. But football is 60 minutes, not 30 minutes. Tired fans. And you did not play 60 minutes. The first half, you were looking like the 09 Bama Crimson Tide. In the second half, you were looking like the 1998 Alabama Crimson Tide. Or the 2007 Alabama Crimson Tide. You couldn't score a damn thing in the second half. And a lot of those points in the first half were self-inflicted wounds by Georgia, self-inflicted mistakes. You were gifted short fields. And it took a lucky fluke play by Jalen Miro and Ryan Williams to beat my Georgia Bulldogs. But Ole Miss, and I said this before and I say it again, they kicked our ass for 60 minutes. They didn't need no help from the refs. There was no conspiracy, they straight up beat us for 60 minutes. No fluke play, no luck. They didn't no luck, no nothing, but they beat our asses. For 60 minutes. So therefore, Ole Miss, in my opinion, out of the four, are the most deserving team. Like I said, ex-Miami out. I said the only way that they would be able to get in as an enlarged team, they would have to finish the season either undefeated or with that one loss to that Georgia Tech team. 2 losses, because neither one of them are ranked. Syracuse, Georgia Tech were not ranked at the time that Miami played them. The Syracuse will be ranked tonight. Now, I gave you, in my opinion, out of the 4, the best team from my eye test is South Carolina. The most deserving team, in my opinion, is Ole Miss. But the team, in my opinion, that's going to get the nod, and let's just say if everything plays out according to plan, SMU beats Clemson. Clemson's going to be eliminated. That will leave one spot, and I think it will go to Bama. Here's why. What's going to eliminate South Carolina is the fact that Bama has better wins. Now they have bad losses, but so does South Carolina. Losing at home 27-3 versus losing on the road in a cold night in Oklahoma 24-3. That's advantage Bama. You see it happen in Norman and didn't happen in Tuscaloosa. And then you also add the fact that head-to-head means a lot. What are we playing the games for if the head-to-head competition don't mean anything? Bama beat South Carolina head-to-head. I don't give a damn if they got lucky doing it, or if it was, last second play or whatever. It came down to one play, yes, and I understand that. But the fact remains is that Bama won the head-to-head. Also, Ole Miss, not only did they win, they dominated the head-to-head with South Carolina. So that eliminates South Carolina. That committee is going to eliminate them because regular season, this committee promised everybody that the regular season would still matter. And what kind of message are you going to send if you put a team in front of 2 teams that beat that team? There's no way I don't see this committee doing it. Now, so that brings us down to Bama and Ole Miss. They both beat Georgia. They both beat South Carolina. In my opinion, Bama has the worst law. Well, Bama lost to Oklahoma 24-3, but once again, it was on the road. Ole Miss lost to Kentucky at home in the Grove. An unranked Kentucky team. They lost to them at home in the Grove. And not only did they lose to them, they only scored 1 touchdown against that Kentucky team. That's what the committee is going to look at, and that is why the committee is going to base their decision, and they're going to give it to Bama. Bama will get that 11th spot. Bama will be in the playoffs. And I know a lot of you hate to hear this, but it is what it is, especially when Georgia take care of business against Texas. That's gonna make Bama stock go up even higher. So Bama will get in the playoffs. Now, I say that to say this. If you're paying attention to a lot of Bama podcasters, and if you pay attention to social media, to a lot of Bama fans, it don't seem like they want any parts of the playoffs. Even Kangaroo Black, not one time has he done a live politicking that Bama should get in. Wonder why. Even our favorite Bama troll, G Bama Boy. Salute to you, G Bama Boy. I know you watching. Even he has stated many times in the chats, because we are, we're subbed up to a lot of the same podcasters. Now I see him typing in the chats, Bama not getting in. Bama don't deserve to be in. Why is that? It seemed like the media and people like Shannon Sharp and Heather Dinich and Paul Feinbaum and Stephen A. Smith, seem like they, and Nick Saban, seem like the people that's outside the program or outside the fan base are the only ones that's politicking for Bama. But nobody within the Bama circle is really politicking for Bama. I wonder why. Maybe, just maybe, because they know if this Bama team get in as an 11th seed, they're going to have to go on the road and play a game either in Penn State or South Bend or Columbus, Ohio, or they may have to go back to Knoxville. And let's just say, hindsight, if the committee does the right thing, if Georgia loses the SEC championship game and they give Georgia a home playoff game, do you really like the idea of going into Athens? And you know they're going to put the game at night. Do you like the idea of going into Athens in a rematch against that Kirby Smart defense and them Georgia Bulldogs, Bama fans? How confident would you be with that situation? See, this is the problem, Bama fans. You're going to get in, but it won't be comfortable like it was in 2017, where you're playing in a warm dome, a warm Superdome, like 2017 and 2011, when you bagged your way into the national championship game against LSU and you bagged your way into a playoff game with Clemson in 2017. Instead of them putting your ass out there in the Rose Bowl to play Oklahoma, that's who you should have been playing in the first round. But no, they gave you an easier route. They put you down in the Superdome with Clemson, a suspect Clemson team. But this is totally different. Totally different. You're going to have to go on the road in the cold weather and play a playoff game. Either scenario is going to be tough. And I hear some Bama fans, Notre Dame. When has Bama ever won in South Bend? You beating them in neutral sites. You beating them in domes. You beating them in Miami. But when has Bama ever went up to South Bend in late December and won a game? Has Bama even went up north in late December and played the game? I don't remember. I don't remember. But we're going to find out. Now, the only scenario that may keep Bama out of the playoffs, in my opinion, would be if Clemson beats SMU. Then the committee would be in a very, 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 very tough situation that they did not want to be in. Choosing between a deserving SEC team, a fourth SEC team, or screwing over the ACC for the second year in a row. Here's this SMU team that has been beating the brakes off of everybody. Went undefeated in the conference. Undefeated, perfect in the conference. Their only loss is to BYU. And they go to Charlotte and play Clemson, which practically will be a home game. This game might as well be playing in Death Valley because that's going to be like a home game to Clemson. You got a lot of Clemson alumni that live in Charlotte, North Carolina. A lot. So if SMU loses to Clemson, even let's just say if it's a close game, what is the committee going to do? Are you going to screw over this SMU team that went perfect during the regular season in the ACC and penalize them because they earned the right to play an extra game? That's the situation. I think that would maybe be the only thing that may keep Bama out of the playoffs. Other than that, if SMU takes care of business and beats Clemson, there's no doubt in my mind Bama will get that 11th seed. But they're going to have to go on the road and play in some very, very, very cold weather conditions that nobody on this team has ever been exposed to. And that's the bottom line. But it's going to get interesting. It's going to get interesting. I want to thank all of you for coming out. Hey, I know I went over a little longer than I normally would, but hey, it was a lot that needed to be discussed today. A lot needed to be discussed today. Hey, it's championship week. Hey, this is what we've been waiting on. This is what we worked hard for, our Georgia Bulldogs. I'm very confident. I don't give a damn what these so-called experts are saying about you can't win rematches. It's hard to beat a team twice. I've seen it done in every damn sport. Seen it done in the NFL. I done seen my Falcons beat the Saints twice in the same year. I done seen the Saints beat my Falcons twice in the same year. And that's the NFL. And I ain't talking about no 2-month. No, I'm talking about hell. I remember it was a time where the Saints and the Falcons didn't play until like they played once in early December and played the next time they played in late December. Yeah. So this notion that it's impossible to beat the same team twice in a year, it sounds good. It sounds good. But in real life, we've seen it happen over and over and over again in every damn sport that you can think of, including college football. And here's the kicker. These same clowns that's trying to paint Texas out to be the big boogeyman, the big bad wolf, that knows no way that Georgia can beat them twice. These same clowns are picking Boise State to beat UNLV again. What's the damn difference? UNLV, I tell you what's the difference. UNLV almost won that game in the first meeting. UNLV almost won that game. So what makes you think that UNLV couldn't beat Boise State in the rematch? You're so sure that Boise State is going to beat UNLV, but it's impossible that my Georgia Bulldogs could beat Texas twice in a season. Last time I checked, Vince Young ain't walking through that door. Colt McCoy ain't walking through that door. Ricky Williams ain't walking through that door. Hey, I digress on that. On that note, everyone, y'all make sure y'all hit that like button on your way out. We'll see what this committee is going to do tonight. Pay attention to where they put SMU. If so happen that SMU loses to Clemson, pay attention to where they put SMU. Because if they have SMU ahead of Bama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina, then there shouldn't be no reason why. Because remember, Ward Emanuel said that we're not penalizing a team for earning the right to play in their conference championship game. We're not penalizing the team, which means if they are inside the top 12 on their final ranking, which will be tonight before Sunday. Tonight is the final ranking before Selection Sunday. There would be no reason for them to have to jump SMU with Bama, because Bama's not playing this weekend. Ole Miss is not playing this weekend. South Carolina is not playing this weekend. They'll be at home on the couch. So why in the hell would this committee would have either team jump SMU if SMU loses to Clemson? Now, if SMU loses by a blowout, let's say if Clemson beats them by 40 or 50 points, then hell yeah. But if it's a close game, like by a field goal, or they battling in overtime, which I'm suspecting is going to be that type of game, there's no reason that I can think of for them to drop SMU other than brand bias. And what message would that send? Because that would taint the damn sport. That would taint the sport. Fans all across the country would start looking at college football the same way they look at the NFL. Because there are a lot of people, myself included, that feel like it's some funny crap going on with the NFL and the outcomes of these games, and how the same few teams win or play for Super Bowls year after year after year after year. It's all about the brand. How the league makes sure that there's a certain brand that has certain players with star power playing for Super Bowls. That's why I don't watch the NFL like that, because it's not genuine. It's not. If I'm gonna watch the NFL, hell, I might as well sit down and watch the WWE. I'd rather watch the WWE if I'm gonna watch something that's scripted and fake. Allegedly, I think I snapped. But you all, make sure you hit that like button. And if you have not subscribed, shame on you, Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you won't miss any more content that we're going to put out over here. Everyone, thank you all for coming out. Hey, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to give you my honest opinion. I'm not like these other UGA podcasters that's going to sell you a bunch of pipe dreams. No, I'm going to give it to you straight, plain and simple. Georgia needs to win this game Saturday. You do not, and I repeat, you do not want to trust this playoff committee. They're all over the place. They're all over the place. The best way to handle this committee is to handle your business and don't leave anything in the hands of this committee. Win your games, get a bye. That's one thing they don't control. They can't hand select teams that get those byes. You play your way into those byes. And those 4 top seeds. You can play your way into that. But when it comes to the at-large, they hold the power. They're going to be looking at brands than more so than looking at the body of work. And on that note, everyone, I want to thank you all for coming out. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out. Share this video. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell because we're going to be bringing you great content throughout the week. Hey, I may be back later on tonight and do something after the playoff committees does their final rankings. I may come back and do something later on tonight. If I don't, then I will do something early tomorrow. So everyone, thank you all. Peace and blessings. Like I always say, take care of yourselves and each other. One last thing, forever and always, no matter what. Go dogs. Sick 'em. Woo, 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 woo. I'm Armondo Black, and this has been the Dog Call. Thank you.